The following is a detailed account of what occurred during the incidents involving SCP-094. The sun dipped low over the horizon, casting long shadows across the rugged landscape of Argentina's Chubut province. A convoy of nondescript military vehicles kicked up clouds of dust as it made its way toward a facility that was as much a part of the desolate scenery as the sparse vegetation dotting the terrain. This was no ordinary military installation. It was the front line in the containment of SCP-094. Dr. Emilia Reyes sat in the back of the lead vehicle, her mind racing with excitement. The report on SCP-094 lay open in her lap, its pages filled with notes and observations that only scratched the surface of the anomaly's true nature. She was a brilliant physicist handpicked by the SCP Foundation for her expertise and her ability to think outside the conventional confines of science. But nothing in her career had prepared her for the reality of working with an object classed as Keter. As the convoy approached the facility, it became apparent that this was no ordinary research base. A double perimeter fence topped with razor wire marked the boundary, with watchtowers positioned at strategic intervals. The sign at the gate read, "Argentinian Military Research Base," but the heavily armed guards and the absence of any traditional military insignia suggested otherwise. This was a place dedicated to the containment and study of phenomena that defied explanation, and Emilia was about to step into the heart of it. The vehicle came to a stop and Commander Martin Sosa stepped forward to greet her. He was a tall man, his face weathered by years of service in environments far harsher than this. The insignia on his uniform was that of the SCP Foundation. "Dr. Reyes, welcome to your new assignment," Sosa greeted, extending a hand. Emilia accepted the handshake, feeling the firm grip of a man accustomed to dealing with uncertainties on a daily basis. "Thank you, Commander. I've read the files, but I'm eager to see SCP-094 for myself," she replied, her voice steady despite the flutter of nerves in her stomach. Sosa nodded, a glint of respect in his eyes. "You'll find that nothing can truly prepare you for the reality of it. SCP-094 is unlike anything we've encountered before." As they walked toward the main complex, the commander briefed Emilia on the containment measures in place. The facility was built around SCP-094's location, centered at classified coordinates, camouflaged as an Argentinian military research base to deter any unauthorized curiosity. A strict no-fly zone and an exclusion area extended 1 kilometer in all directions, enforced by joint SCP and Argentinian forces to ensure the anomaly remained undisturbed by the outside world. SCP-094 itself was contained within a gas-permeable, steel-reinforced plexiglass cube. Emilia listened intently as Sosa explained the safety protocols, including the requirement for all personnel to secure themselves to tethers anchored to the walls before stepping onto the floor of the containment room. Since SCP-094 behaves like a miniature event horizon, absorbing any matter and light that comes into close proximity, the tethers prevent personnel from accidentally getting too close and being irretrievably lost to the anomaly. This precautionary measure helps maintain a safe distance from SCP-094, while allowing for observation and study within its containment area. As they reached the entrance to the main complex, Emilia felt a surge adrenaline. The challenge of understanding and containing SCP-094 was daunting, but it was exactly the kind of puzzle that drove her. With a final glance at the setting sun, she stepped inside, ready to confront the unimaginable. Inside the facility, the air was cool and thick, a dichotomy to the rugged wilderness outside. The halls were lit with a soft, artificial light, leading them deeper into the heart of the complex. Dr. Emilia Reyes followed Commander Martin Sosa, each step bringing her closer to the anomaly that had brought her halfway across the world. SCP-094. They arrived at the containment room. The cube itself was an engineering marvel, designed to allow gas exchange while containing the anomaly securely within its 3 meters on each side. A single door, also made of reinforced plexiglass, provided the only access to the interior of the cube, and Emilia noted the heavy locking mechanism that secured it. "This is it," Sosa said, gesturing towards the cube. His voice carried a mixture of reverence and caution, reflecting the gravity of what lay before them. Emilia's eyes were immediately drawn to the sphere suspended within the cube. SCP-094 was a perfectly black sphere, its surface absorbing all light, making it appear as a void in the space it occupied. It floated about 3 meters off the ground with no visible means of support, an enigma that defied the laws of physics. "It's mesmerizing, isn't it?" remarked Dr. Llewellyn Garcia, the lead researcher on SCP-094, who had joined them to offer his insights. His appearance was that of a seasoned scientist. "But don't let its beauty fool you. It's a Keter class for a reason," he continued, his tone serious. Emilia nodded, her gaze still fixed on the sphere. "Has there been any progress in communicating with it? The sounds it emits are unlike anything I've ever heard," she inquired, recalling the notes in the dossier about the ambient sounds of nature, static buzzing, and occasional human speech emanating from SCP-094. "We've tried, but SCP-094 remains a mystery. Some believe the sounds are echoes from another dimension," Llewellyn Garcia explained. He leaned in closer, lowering his voice as if sharing a confidential secret. "It's unknown whether these sounds come from SCP-094 itself, from something inside it, or from some area that connects through it." The information was both fascinating and unsettling. The idea that the sphere could be a gateway to another dimension or contain entities unknown to humanity was the stuff of science fiction. Yet here it was, a reality that Emilia was now a part of. SCP-094 was discovered in 1922 in the Chubut province of southern Argentina. At the time, it was estimated to be 20 to 25 centimeters in diameter. Llewellyn Garcia continued, providing a brief history of the anomaly. Analysis of historical records indicates that the diameter of SCP-094 doubles in size approximately every 31 years. Our primary research activities are concentrated on finding how to stop or reverse its growth without inducing cataclysmic failure. The mention of the sphere's growth sent a shiver down Emilia's spine. The implications were clear. If left unchecked, SCP-094 could eventually pose an existential threat to the Earth itself. As they concluded their visit to the containment room, Emilia felt a mixture of awe and curiosity. The challenge presented by SCP-094 was unlike any she had faced before, but she was resolved to uncover its secrets and find a way to halt its growth. The weeks that followed Emilia's first encounter with SCP-094 were a whirlwind of research, experimentation, and collaboration. The facility's archives became her second home, filled with stacks of reports, historical data, and theoretical physics papers that she hoped would shed light on the anomaly's nature, and more importantly, how to halt its relentless expansion. One morning, as the first light of dawn filtered through the lab's windows, Emilia sat hunched over her desk, surrounded by piles of notes and open journals. Her eyes were tired, but her resolve was as strong as ever. The growth of SCP-094 wasn't just a scientific anomaly, it was a ticking time bomb, with the potential to engulf the Earth if left unchecked. Dr. Llewellyn Garcia entered the lab, his footsteps echoing softly in the quiet space. "Any progress?" he asked, his voice hopeful, yet tinged with the weight of their shared burden. Emilia sighed, rubbing her eyes before looking up. "I've been analyzing the pattern of its growth, trying to find a correlation with environmental factors, celestial events, or even its own emissions. But it's like trying to find a pattern in chaos." Llewellyn Garcia nodded, understanding the frustration all too well. "Remember, the key might lie in its anomalous properties. We know it's not a black hole, but it behaves like a miniature event horizon. There's nothing in conventional physics that can explain how it absorbs matter and light without exerting gravitational pull." Their conversation was interrupted by the sound of footsteps approaching the lab. Two security personnel, tasked with monitoring the containment area, entered with urgent expressions. "I heard it's been growing faster lately," one of them whispered, casting a wary glance at SCP-094's live feed displayed on a nearby monitor. "Yeah, Dr. Reyes is working on it, but who knows if we'll ever figure it out, the other replied, skepticism lacing his voice. We'll figure it out, Emilia said more to herself than to the others in the room. We have to. In the weeks that followed, Emilia dove deeper into the anomaly's properties, consulting with physicists, mathematicians, and even experts in theoretical dimensions. The sounds emitted by SCP-094 became a focal point of her research. If the sphere was indeed a gateway to another dimension, or a conduit for entities unknown, then understanding these emissions could be the key to unlocking its secrets. One evening, while reviewing audio recordings of SCP-094, Emilia noticed something she hadn't before. The sounds, previously thought to be random, seemed to follow a pattern, albeit one that was complex and elusive. She spent hours isolating the frequencies, running them through analysis software, and comparing them to known patterns in nature and mathematics. It was in the early hours of the morning when she made a breakthrough. The sounds emitted before each growth spurt of SCP-094 weren't just random noise. They were structured, almost like a message or a signal. Dr. Llewellyn Garcia, come listen to this. The sounds? They're not random, they're a key, Emilia exclaimed, her fatigue momentarily forgotten in the excitement of her discovery. Llewellyn Garcia rushed over, listening intently as Emilia replayed the recordings, now filtered and enhanced to reveal the underlying pattern. His initial skepticism gave way to surprise, then excitement. You're right, Emilia. This could be the breakthrough we've been waiting for, he said, the implications of her discovery dawning on him. If we can decode this pattern, we might be able to communicate with SCP-094, or at least understand its intentions. The discovery of a pattern within SCP-094's emitted sounds marked the beginning of a feverish period of work for Emilia and the SCP-094 research team. The potential to communicate with, or at least influence, SCP-094 generated a renewed sense of purpose within the team. The walls of the lab were plastered with spectrograms of the sounds, mathematical formulas, and theoretical models of interdimensional communication. Emilia spent every waking moment analyzing the patterns, consulting with experts in cryptology, linguistics, and quantum physics. She hypothesized that if these sounds were indeed a form of communication, or a byproduct of SCP-094's anomalous properties, then they might hold the key to understanding its intentions and, hopefully, a method to control its growth. One afternoon, as the sun cast a golden hue over the distant mountains visible from the lab's window, Emilia and Dr. Llewellyn Garcia sat huddled over a complex algorithm they had been developing. This algorithm was designed to analyze the sound patterns and translate them into something comprehensible, based on the assumption that these patterns followed a logical structure. Ready to test our latest theory? Emilia asked, her voice a mix of hope and exhaustion. Llewellyn Garcia nodded, his eyes reflecting the gravity of the moment. Let's do it. If we're right, we might just find a way to communicate with it or at least understand what it's trying to say. Emilia initiated the program. The computer hummed as it processed the data, running the sounds through the newly developed algorithm. The room was filled with a tense silence, broken only by the occasional beep of equipment and the distant sound of the facility's daily operations. Minutes passed like hours until the computer signaled the completion of its task. Emilia and Llewellyn Garcia leaned in, their eyes scanning the screen for any sign of success. Suddenly, the data coalesced into a coherent pattern, revealing a repeating sequence that had been hidden within the sounds it emitted. It was a breakthrough. The sounds weren't random after all. They were structured, possibly indicative of a form of communication or a natural byproduct of SCP-094's existence. You're right, Emilia. This could be the breakthrough we've been waiting for, Llewellyn Garcia said. The team wasted no time in further analyzing the pattern, seeking to decode any message or intent hidden within. The sequence seemed to correspond to specific events in SCP-094's behavior, particularly its growth spurts. This correlation provided a tantalizing hint that they were on the right track. As days turned into nights and back again, Emilia and her colleagues delved deeper into the mystery. They developed a counter-frequency, a sort of reply to the pattern emitted by SCP-094, in the hope that it might influence the anomaly in a measurable way. The preparation for broadcasting the counter-frequency was meticulous. The team checked and rechecked every calculation, every variable. The containment area was modified to accommodate the new equipment required for the broadcast, with every precaution taken to ensure the safety of the facility and its personnel. "Ready, Dr. Reyes?" Llewellyn Garcia asked, his hand hovering over the control panel that would initiate the broadcast. The room was filled with the presence of the entire research team, along with Commander Sosa and a contingent of security personnel. The tension was palpable, a collective breath held in anticipation of what might come next. Emilia nodded, her heart racing. "Let's do this." Her voice was steady, belying the whirlwind of emotions within her. This was the moment of truth, the culmination of months of tireless work and sleepless nights. Llewellyn Garcia pressed the button, and the counter-frequency began to broadcast, a low hum that gradually filled the room. All eyes turned to the monitors displaying SCP-094's live feed, watching for any sign of reaction. For what seemed like an eternity, nothing happened. Then slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, the sphere began to change. The blackness that had seemed so absolute, so impenetrable, began to fluctuate, its surface rippling like the surface of a disturbed pond. The team watched in awe as the sphere's growth rate slowed, then stopped. The counter-frequency was working. SCP-094 was responding. A cheer erupted from the team, a release of pent-up tension and elation at their success. They had achieved the impossible. They had communicated with SCP-094 and influenced its behavior. Following the successful broadcast of the counter-frequency, the research facility was abuzz with a sense of achievement and cautious optimism. Emilia and Dr. Llewellyn Garcia, along with their team, were hailed as pioneers for their groundbreaking work with SCP-094. However, they knew that the true test of their discovery was yet to come. The looming midnight event, predicted by SCP-1032-15's hand, coinciding with SCP-094's potential to engulf the Earth, remained a critical concern. In the weeks leading up to the event, preparations intensified. The research team worked in collaboration with Mobile Task Force Epsilon 12, known as the Night Watchman, specialized in dealing with high-risk SCPs. Their expertise in containment breach protocols and rapid response would be invaluable in ensuring the safety and security of the operation. "Ready, Dr. Reyes?" Dr. Llewellyn Garcia asked, as they stood in the control room, surrounded by monitors and equipment. The atmosphere was tense, a stark contrast to the celebratory mood that had followed their initial success. Emilia nodded, her focus sharp. "Let's do this. We've prepared for every contingency. It's time to see this through." The plan was to enhance the counter-frequency based on their ongoing analysis of SCP-094's responses. This adjusted signal aimed to not only halt the sphere's growth, but potentially reverse it, thereby averting the catastrophic consequences of the midnight event. As the designated hour approached, the facility was on high alert. Security protocols were at their maximum, with every member of the staff aware of the stakes. The control room was a hive of activity, with Emilia and Llewellyn Garcia coordinating the operation's final preparations. The moment arrived. Llewellyn Garcia gave Emilia a nod, and she initiated the broadcast of the enhanced counter-frequency. The hum of the transmission filled the room, a sound now familiar to the team but no less foreboding. All eyes turned to the live feed of SCP-094, watching for any indication of the anomaly's reaction. Minutes passed in silence, the tension mounting with each tick of the clock. Then suddenly the sphere began to react. The surface of SCP-094, previously unyielding in its darkness, started to fluctuate more dramatically than before. It was as if the sphere itself was resonating with the counter-frequency, the two forces engaging in a silent battle of wills. "Look at the readings," one of the technicians exclaimed. The data on the screen showed a clear decrease in the sphere's diameter. It was working. The counter frequency was not only halting the growth but reversing it. A collective sigh of relief washed over the room, followed by a cautious optimism. They had done it. They had averted the immediate threat of the midnight event. "Dr. Reyes, you've done the impossible," Commander Sosa said, admiration and gratitude evident in his voice. He understood, as did they all, the significance of their achievement. Not only had they prevented a potential disaster, but they had also opened a new chapter in understanding and interacting with SCP anomalies. Emilia smiled, her gaze fixed on the monitors displaying SCP-094. "We've only just begun to understand it, Commander, but today we've made a difference."